Yeah, Blash, with Dylan's suspension, just what's your reaction yesterday? It sounded like you may have thought he didn't deserve that, so I'm wondering what you think today.
I guess I would just say, kind of probably reiterate what I said yesterday. Philosophically, I think the most dangerous plays in that game by far for me are the high hit from behind, any kind of push or cross check high in the numbers where the player goes head first into the boards. I think those are the plays ultimately that are the most dangerous. If I was a player, those would be the plays I want to be protected from the most. I think those are dangerous plays, and that's just a philosophical opinion. When I talked to my son last night, as he's asking me questions about, why is the punch with the glove on more dangerous than the other one, and I had to adamantly explain to him it's not for me personally. But that's just my own opinion. So ultimately, Dylan will serve his suspension, and we'll take our medicine and we'll move forward. And as I said yesterday, I think Dylan knows that, and Dylan would state to you that, you don't want to keep your emotions under control at that point. But I as I watched it through yesterday, totally understand why he didn't. And none of us are perfect, and I totally get it, given what he's been through and the instances that have arisen over the course of the last 8 to 10 months. So that's all I have to say about that.
And after another day to evaluate his health, how is he that way?
He's still in the evaluation period, so I don't really have any real updates. He's still going through the evaluation period, so no real updates to give you right now. And obviously, once we heard the suspension yesterday, no real rush to make that determination as well.
Thanks, Flash.
Max Boltman.
It's a question for the league. I'm not sure.
What does it take for place in the
Well, we're certainly not the only team that's going to play without a really good player in the league through the course of the season. So, that's just part of what we always have to do, or what teams throughout the league have to do. And so, ultimately, you miss the player to the degree in which the guys filling those roles play, meaning if they play great, then you don't feel the loss as much. If they don't fill those roles great, then you feel the loss way more. I think on the radio the other day, I referenced, this goes back a long time, but when Drew Bledsoe went out with the Patriots, if the quarterback that came in throwing 5 interceptions a game the rest of the season, they would have felt that loss way bigger than ultimately becoming a dynasty. So we've got guys that are going to come in and Fabs will fill the role at center. I thought he did a good job the other day. I think ultimately I'm not, I like him. I think he can play either position. Carter Rowney will come into the lineup. He's certainly a guy who's knows how to play in this league and been a successful guy. A guy I wanted to get in the lineup at some point anyways. And guys just all kind of move around and maybe fill a little bit bigger role, and they gotta execute in those roles.
I don't think we asked you about the preseason,
I think Z's done a pretty good job. He's definitely worked. He's definitely continued to work at his game. I think he feels a little more confident. I think he, he's put himself physically in position to be successful. I would say, the thing that Z does at times is he puts too much pressure on himself just to score. And I want him to focus on more than just scoring, to evaluate his game. And that's not just defensively either. That's offensively, give and go, make plays, those types of things, and not just worry about just scoring. Scoring's a hard way to value yourself night in and night out, because you're not going to do it every night. It's just the best to ever don't do it every night for the most part. So, make sure he just relaxes and plays great hockey and tries to win the hockey game.
Jeff?
And Jeff, this is kind of an out there question, but in Toronto tonight, because Mrazek's hurt and the Leafs have no cap space, they're signing a Canadian University goalie to be their backup goalie tonight. Now, you guys, you're one of the few teams that has a lot of cap space, and we're looking at a season that's obviously going to be condensed because of the Olympics, and there's going to be attrition. How much of an advantage can that be to you guys over the long haul that you do have that roster flexibility? You're not going to be in a position like some teams that may have to play games short players.
Well, I certainly would say, I think cap space has definite value in this league today, and obviously you've seen it used, for trades and things like that. But it also has value in the ways that you're talking. We're in no position to ever have to make decisions based on our cap, and that means we don't necessarily need to keep somebody up based on our cap like some teams do at times. We certainly never need to play short like some teams have been forced to do, and we don't need to sign players that maybe we wouldn't sign otherwise. So I think there's definitely an advantage to having cap flexibility, and I think it's been an interesting observation over the last 5 years or so, how important cap space has become to teams, and how valuable it has become at times. And I certainly understand why some teams are up against the cap. When you're going for it, and you've got players that you've had to pay because of that, you get up against the cap, and teams that are younger in our rebuild don't need to be up against the cap, and we'll take advantage of those situations.
Thanks.
Yep.
And Sarkhan.
Yeah, Jeff, just on the PK, just looking back at that first game, what are just some of the adjustments, or just what do you need to execute better there?
Start by saying there was moments, I thought when we were in our structure in zone, just in our structure, I thought actually we executed excellent. I thought we did a really good job. We got in a couple situations where you have to make basically hockey reads. So when you go to pressure, you get out of your structure. And the reason that you pressure is to try to get the puck out of the zone. And I think it's an important piece of it. But sometimes out of that, now you've got to kind of make hockey reads. And we didn't quite execute on a few of the hockey reads, and gave, obviously Stamkos a couple of one-time shots that you certainly would never want to give him. And I think when we were in a structure, there was no way he was getting a shot. And once that structure broke down, we got to do a better job of making those hockey reads. We got picked extremely hard off the face-off for the last PK goal against, and then again, so then it eliminates two of your players. Basically, both forwards got picked big time. And so then you got to make a hockey read and which shot you're going to give up, because you're kind of put into a 2-on-1 spot, and we give up another kind of one-timer. So those are ones that we're just going to work through. How do we make better decisions in those situations? And one way you can help your players is, what's the most dangerous player in each of those spots? And generally the backdoor one-timer is going to be the most dangerous. So I think just that alone, we can execute better than that. We can execute by not getting in those situations more, whether it be fighting through picks better or setting ourselves up in a different way. I think if that's a 5-on-4, not a 6-on-4, I think it's a penalty called, personally, but maybe I'm wrong. So those are just different things that happen throughout the course of the game. I would say our PK forecheck needs to do a better job of standing at the line and not allowing the entry as easy as I think it was allowed at times the other night. But they're a challenge, obviously, as we'll face them as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Ted Colton.
Hey, Jeff. I think you coach both Quinn and Jack at the World, but just assess Quinn Hughes. I mean, are you at all surprised the way he's progressed in this league? Not any surprise at all. I got a chance to coach twice actually, Quinn. One time before the draft, and going into that tournament, there was some question marks that I had that I wondered, how would he be able to get better at certain things in order to then become a great NHL player. And after spending 3.5 weeks with him, I was pretty convinced that those things that he would have to get better at, he was already getting better at.
like you can see it already happening. One being his shot. So I think he's a dynamic player. He's a dynamic skater. He makes things happen. He's hard to forecheck because how well he breaks the puck out. He's become an excellent power play player. What he really is that maybe people don't know that don't know him well. He's a big time competitor. And he does it in a real quiet sense. He's not an outwardly competitive person. He's an elite competitor. So it doesn't surprise me at all that he's had the success that he's had whatsoever. I'm a big fan of Quinn Hughes.
Interesting the way the game's evolved with those type of defensemen too. I mean, seems like every team wants one, obviously.
The thing I would say is, I think if you had your perfect makeup, your decor, first of all, if you had your perfect makeup decor, everybody's 6'4", can skate like Quinn Hughes and make plays like him, but that's not the reality, So I still think, the makeup of your decor size matters. I think if you look at teams that have won the cup, that's kind of how they've been made up. But certainly there's room. You need guys that are going to be lead on your power play, guys that are going to break the puck out, guys that are going to transition the puck. Quinn Hughes is that guy. Torrey Krug is that guy. And at that point, size doesn't matter at all for the individual player. I think it's more about the makeup of your whole decor. But certainly, when you have, I think elite players matter the most, regardless of size or what hand they shoot or anything like that.
Sounds good. Good stuff. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Danielle Bruce.
Jeff, I know you talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, but you haven't seen a team outside of the Central Division from last year in a really long time, Vancouver coming in tonight. What was the preparation like heading into a team you haven't seen in so long?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. You kind of through the course of the last season, you got adjusted to what the pre-scouts were like, and it was just way different. You play a game, and then you kind of game plan for the next game against that same opponent, and I think there's real positives to that, and I actually like that part of the format. Not to say I want to play the same team every night, but when you get back to a normal schedule now, you're kind of back to the way we used to do it, and you're kind of using a combination of how you played the night before, and then kind of game planning for them. Meaning you use their pre-scout games that you've watched. They've played 2 regular season games already, and then generally you try to go back and watch the games you played against them maybe a year ago. Well, we don't have those, so now it's 2 years ago, and they don't become nearly as relevant for a couple of reasons. One, there's that the way they forecheck is different than the way they forechecked 2 years ago. Two, the players are just all different too. So it's a different animal. Certainly one that we understand. I mean, we've done it lots in the league, but it's a different animal, and it's especially the fact that it's been a full season since we've played any of these teams makes it a little bit different in terms of preparation. Not harder or easier, just different.
The good news is that's the same for them too.
Yeah, we're both in the same boat. We're both in the same boat. And certainly we have a lot of new faces from when they would have faced us, and we've changed some things, they've changed some things, and so you're working. I would just say probably you're working a little more off the pre-scout, in relative clips that are relevant, I should say, from maybe like our Tampa game that would be relevant to the way that Vancouver plays. You're working way more off those types of things. Yep.
That's it for us this morning.